Have you really noticed that there are two distinctive individuals that lives in Africa? There are two different people that live in Africa. They look alike, they act alike, they behave alike, but they are distinctively different from each other. This is not a hypothesis. It has been proven that in Africa, we have the E1B1B, which originated from sub-Saharan Africa. We have E1B1A, which migrated to Africa. Remember, I told you that they have the same ancestral lineage. They are brothers. They came from the same parent, but they are distinctively different. They act alike, they act differently, behave differently, and have different characteristics. Now, the E1B1A are the Semite DNA haplogroup. The E1B1B are the Hemite DNA haplogroup. Among these two individuals, there is this internal hatred and jealousy and envy, and among them that makes them behave distinctively different from each other. I'm not making this up. You could go online and check it out. The secret is that the colonial masters knew about these DNA differences. They knew about it, so they exploited that side of it. No, they capitalized on these DNA genetic differences, and that was why there was a lot of blacks selling blacks during the slave trade. You see, there were a lot of black people who also sold black people to the white or to their colonial masters. They aided the colonial masters in selling their fellow blacks. Why? Because these people knew they were distinctively different from each other. So it gave the colonial masters a loophole or a threshold to permeate during this slave trade era. Your enemies know who you are. This is not about discrimination or being biased. No. Your enemy knows who you are, and they can capitalize on your weaknesses or your indifferences or differences to maximize, to strike whenever the opportunity comes up. Now, during slave trade, those with E1B1A were the most to be sold. Those with the E1B1A haplogroup were the most vulnerable during the slave trade era. Why? Remember, I told you they migrated to Africa. So the E1B1B knew that these people were not part of us. So when you go and check online, go and check it out. I'm not making this up. When you check, you find that those who were sold during the slave trade were those who had the haplogroup, who share the same ancestral haplogroup of E1B1A. Now, why would someone sell his brother irrespective that they are blacks and they are Africans? Why would they do that? Well, we'll go to it yet. Okay, the shock is that the E1B1A are the most dispersed because they migrate a lot, so they tend to disperse more, they tend to travel more than most haplogroup. They tend to forget their history and sense of origin. Those with haplogroup of E1B1A are more dispersed, they travel a lot, and because they travel over centuries, they forget their ancestral home and their sense of origin and their cultures. They can blend very well with other cultures because over time they travel, they forget their ancestral heritage, and this made them vulnerable during the slave trade because they are travelers already. They are so dispersed in the continent. So this was a very big loophole for the colonial masters to use to enslave this set of people. When you see blacks snitching on each other, killing each other, maltreating each other, and it could be the DNA instinct coming up. When you see a black snitching on each other, killing each other, you know, it could be that these are distinctively individuals that the DNA is coming up to speak for itself. There is this video that someone said he slipped out from his tongue, and he said that Martin Luther King Jr., he had to step aside so that they would get a clear shot on him. Now, why will you sell your brother because of what they will give you? During the slave trade, who aided the slave traders, the colonial masters, to propagate slave trade? It was fellow blacks. It was fellow blacks, because an enemy from outside does not have a stronghold without an enemy in the inside. So it was the enemy in the inside that told the enemy outside that we can cooperate and work together. Now, I'm not making this up. You could go online and check it out. When I came in contact with this, I was like, wow. So that's why there is this hatred and envy and jealousy, in the hearts of blacks against each other. But it shouldn't be so. It shouldn't be so. Okay, those who helped the colonial masters during the slave trade, we are blacks. We are blacks. Now, already they knew that distinctively these people had different genetic components than we have. So they were vulnerable. Those with E1B1A genetic composition were vulnerable during the slave trade. They were victims. Those with E1B1A had some distinctive abilities. Now, someone will ask, why is it that there is this hatred and envy and jealousy in the heart of blacks against each other? Now, from my discovery, I found that E1B1A haplogroup had distinctive abilities and capabilities that made them unique. So it incurred envy. Now that leads to my next point. When you see that someone has what you don't have, what do you do? Or someone can do what you can do, go to the person, ask the person, how are you doing this? Teach me. Be humble enough to learn. There is strength in humility. There is strength in saying, I don't know this. Teach me. I want to learn. Do you get my point? Now, but because of these distinctive abilities that E1B1A had, they were, pride came over them. They had this sense of they are distinctive, and it made them vulnerable for attack. I have to be honest with you on that. When you go through history and check it out, that's what happened. Now, if you notice this genetic tendency popping up in you, the right approach is not to hate each other, but to ask, how did you do this? How can I do it? Teach me how to do this. Because when you don't know, it's not weakness. I don't know this. I want you to teach me how to do this. It's strength. It makes you, though you might be vulnerable at that point, but it makes you are willing and humble enough to learn from the person, that this person knows how to do this person has this ability, and this person can teach me how to do this. That's strength. Now, countries with genetic coherence tend to unite more than countries with diverse genetic composition. I've noticed that countries that has genetic coherence have a sense of unity. When you go to Asia, most especially in China has this, and Japan, though Japan is mixing up with a lot of Western cultures, but China has this coherent genetic composition that makes them agree. In Asia, you find it more in Asia than in Africa. In Africa, a lot of genetic makeup and composition has infiltrated the genetic components, and there's a lot of disagreement because internally they know that they are two distinctive individuals that do not agree with each other. That's why someone say Africa will never be good, they will never unite. It's because of this distinctive genetic makeup. In the northern region of Africa, these are the places that this E1B1B genetic haplogroup are most diverse. And do you know the funniest thing? The funniest thing is the most E1B1B are the most popular genetic haplogroup in Africa. So that's to tell you that E1B1A migrated. Okay, Asian countries tend to have a lot of genetic, have a lot of coherence in their genetic composition that makes them unite together, unlike in Africa. Now, why am I bringing this up? Why I'm bringing this up is not for you to hate on each other, for you to see it's not about discrimination, but it's about to see that there are genetic tendencies that might come up in the future, or that might come up, that the right questions to ask are, why are these things coming up? Where did this thing originated from? And how can we fix this problem? When you find out, okay, this is the problem and how we can fix it, it's not by hating each other, but by showing love and understanding that we are the same brothers. Now, do you know that during the slave trade, that African Americans, those who were sent through the ship, the slave who were sent through the ship were mostly E1B1A. Now, it means that the E1B1B sold their brothers to slave trade. It's still obvious that Africans don't like African Americans. It's very, very obvious. I said it, you can do nothing about it, But that's the reality. Africans don't like African Americans, and African Americans don't like Africans. Why? There is this internal hatred in this genetic composition that pops up over time. Remember, I said in a video last time, there are genetic compositions, or there are cyclical events that happens in most families, that before you marry in that family, you need to find out what are the tendencies that happens in this family that I might face during marriage in the future. Like I said in that video, that if there are families that have quick temper, they get angry easily. There are families that childbirth is a very big problem for them. There are families that they don't stay with their husband. There are families that men don't take care of their wives. Now, if you know that these are tendencies that happens in the family, okay, how will I fix it? Can I live with this woman? Can I live with this man? How will I fix it? How can I cope? These are the solutions that we need to come up with when we see some of these things popping up. Remember that in Africa, there are two distinctive individuals. We have E1B1A and E1B1B. We are the same brothers. Why are we hating on each other? There is no need for hatred. We need to love each other. Until next time, I bounce.